is with right before this, is that when the Carol Dweck video is right before this slide comes up? Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I was supposed to do that or not.
Yeah, kind of an anticipatory set, getting in
there,
yeah. Thinking, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked it, and I had something for that, but I can just do it with this. It's not a problem.
No, you can start, if you want to start with the Carol Dweck, that's great. If you want to kind of do a transition, sometimes people might want to do like a, hey, okay, and that was the emotional tank, and now, you know, just to see how you would transition from one to the next. Sometimes that's helpful too.
Right. Okay. Okay. I can do that. Yeah. I think I'm still thinking of my 4-4-2, 4-3-3 out on the field that I just ran from. So let's see.
I love it.
How this
that
goes.
happens at workshops too. And I once got called to do a workshop that was, I was on the practice field and I got a text saying, hey, somebody can't make it. Can you do this workshop? So I literally ran from the field to the workshop. Sometimes it's what you need to do.
All right. Hold on one second. I'm get my computer a little better here. I want to make this so I'm just moving my computer around here, the screen, so I see you a little better.
Yep, whatever you need to do. And if you want to see the PowerPoint better on my end, you can.
You know what I did? I just shrunk it. I just shrunk it so I can see it on my screen that way.
Okay.
I'll be okay. Okay, so we're ready to go.
All right, go for it.
That's good. I'm glad you are because I'm not sure I am. Let's do it. Okay, so we've covered the emotional tank and how to help bring a positive environment for our athletes to get them at the sort of optimum level. So when we do practice or we do have a game, they're ready to go. The next step in our coaching model at PCA is the improving part, which we call the Elm Tree of Mastery. So this is the part where we get into how do we get our athletes to work harder, to do better, to improve their performance. And before we go, when we transition into this, I want to go back to the way I did my introduction. I'm going to have an A and a B that I want you guys to talk about. I'm going to show you Coach A. I'm going to show you Coach B. And then after we do this, keep this in mind as we go through all these pieces for the Elm Tree of Mastery. Okay, so it's a soccer game. There's 30 seconds left. Let's make it even more. 5 seconds left. They get a free kick outside the 18 box. The player steps up, the captain of the team, she steps up. It's a free kick. She shoots over the wall, bends it in, scores. The team wins the game, and there's barely any time left. Everybody celebrates. Coach A goes up to her. He's like, great job, great job. That was an excellent kick. You take free kicks, great. You are our best field kicker, and you won the game for us. Excellent job, thank you. That's Coach A. Coach B comes up, great job, you won the game. All that practice you did after school yesterday, trying to hit the ball on the outside, it paid off. Look, you bent the ball right in. Great job. Okay, Coach A and Coach B. I'd like to hear from you. What do you notice is a key difference between Coach A and Coach B? Kelly.
I know that Coach B, you linked it to practice.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. And that's a key that we're looking to do here, right? Mm-hmm. What does practice mean? What does practice mean for people? What do you do in practice? Anybody?
You train. Yep. You work to improve. You do drills. You receive feedback.
Yep, right there, Ruben, you had a great point. You said you work to improve, right? And that's what we're talking about here. That's what we want to focus on. Coach B is focused on the work to improve, and it doesn't end with
He's muted, it's good.
With this game-winning goal, it's not over. That player is more likely to go practice more and keep going, right? Player A is feeling like, hey, I'm great. I scored. That's great. Next time I'll take it again. But maybe they won't work the same. And it's this environment of improvement that PCA is trying to foster with our Elm Tree. If we move to I'll move to the next slide. Mm-hmm. Carol Dweck, who is a famous psychologist on our board, she wrote the book Mindset, which is a big sort of revolutionary concept in education and in sports and in business to foster improvement and foster a mastery, what we're calling a mastery climate here. Let's see what she has to say. And what I want you to do is think about what she's saying. See what her try to find 2 or 3 key takeaway points in her presentation here. Okay, so
we can pretend it. Yeah, we can pretend it plays.
And then, okay, what do you see? What do you think are key elements that she mentions here when we're talking about a mastery environment or an effort environment? Anybody? I'll take a hand.
What stood out for me was when she said that many coaches think it's obvious that the players that we value practice and effort. And I was just wondering if you pulled any of my players aside and asked what I valued, if they would actually say effort and practice. Or they might just say, my coach wants us to win.
I think that's exactly it. I mean, we often encourage our people, right? Hey, go hard. That was great. Good effort in the practice. But we don't necessarily outline it for everybody and let them know that's the culture. That's what we do here, right? What are some other points maybe that you think that she brought out?
Well, if I heard correctly, she brought out the fact that the point that just the fact of the kids having that knowledge and understanding that you as a coach do indeed value effort, that greatly impacts their performance.
Right. If they know that what I'm looking for or you're looking for as a coach is the effort, that you value that, then they're more likely to improve. There's an interesting study by Joan Duda from the University of Birmingham. And actually, I'll take a side note. This is a different one. I think you mentioned her somewhere in one of these other ones, but it's not that. But now I'm back. Okay. She did a study with youth soccer athletes in South America, over 300 youth study, and purposely they manipulated mastery climates. The coaches were taught on how to discuss the value of effort and things. And those kids that were in those groups reported much more higher satisfaction. Their anxiety went down, and more importantly, they won more games. So it's again, we want to emphasize that this all sounds good, and we're all talking about effort and praise and how to do it, but it is to ultimately be competitive, right? It's not just to make everybody feel good. But when we make everybody feel good, they do better. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so how do you think, given this sort of information that we're talking about, how do you think, what could we do to help athletes get better? And I mean, we've just discussed some of this, so let's get some responses from you guys. What do you think we could do at a practice to get our players to believe that they can do better?
I think sometimes what I just have to do is show my team that they did better than they did yesterday. So if they're warming up before practice and they're having a catch back and forth, I walk through and I point out like, wow, Ashley, I can't believe, look how much better you're doing today. Look how, your arc on the ball is so much better, or just pointing out things that they're doing better that they couldn't do last week or, a few weeks ago.
That's excellent. What we call that is being a noticer of effort. Right, being a noticer of effort, and that's key. And again, too, we could go with what we just mentioned previously. Tell them we value effort, right? We value effort over talent. And when they do well, like Coach B, we taught when spoke about in the beginning, when she scored the goal, he said, "Look, your practice paid off. You scored that goal because you practiced." So then I would click in the three things come down here. So what we want to do is we want to tell our players that we value effort. We want to become a noticer of effort, and we want to attribute success to the effort. I have to put a little story here of myself. I thought I was a very positive coach, until I saw this thing about becoming a noticer of effort. And also in the emotional tank, you guys covered, or we covered, I guess it would have been us, right? Yeah. We covered positive charting. Well, I used to chart my players, but I was negative charting. I was charting every time they made a mistake. So like for a particular problem was my players would not get back and defend. And so I would tick off every time they didn't run back over the half line. And I would say, when you lose the ball, 8 guys have to behind the half. And then after the game, I'd show them, look, there were 11 times you guys didn't get behind the half line. I was becoming a noticer, but I was a noticer of failure, not a noticer of effort. And then once I saw this, I began to change my own practices. And you know what? It works. It works. The guys are more, so instead of saying, I want to see when you fail, it's the same thing, but I say, look, I'm going to check off how many times you guys get behind the line because I want to get us behind the line, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll see how many times you do it, not how many times you don't do it. And it became it really helped. And then the guys, we even have sort of like an award after the games of the hustler, you know, the guy who got behind the line. And it's easy because I can say, hey, look, Jorge got behind the line 15 times and he's our forward, you know, that kind of thing. And it works really well. So I would encourage you guys to look for those opportunities when you see the players really hustling. So that brings us to our principle here, the Elm Tree of Mastery. And we'll talk about what this acronym stands for. The E is for effort, the L is for learning, and the M is for mistakes, but bouncing back from mistakes or recovering from mistakes. And sometimes in sports psychology terminology, we use the term resilience a lot. And that's what we mean by that. So we're going to move ahead. So when we're talking about this more positive mastery environment that we're trying to put forth here at the PCA, that our research has shown works to optimize the development of our young athletes, a sort of dichotomy comes up between what we call a scoreboard definition of success or a mastery definition of success. And the scoreboard definition, for all intensive purposes, what we'll call it, is more the old school. This is when I was playing as a kid, this is how a lot of coaches defined what success was. And then the mastery definition is more what we're trying to push here. So the scoreboard definition, and now I'd click through each of the three things. The scoreboard definition is based on results. You know, what does the scoreboard say? Did you win? Or did you make your foul shots? Did you score more points? Did you have 20 rebounds? Whereas the mastery definition is based on effort. You know, did you improve over last game? Did you, instead of making the foul shot, did you create the opportunity to get the foul shot, right? Did you, you know, make the initial save if you were a goalie, whereas before you weren't, right? So it's not about the scoreboard or the time, it's about the effort. The other thing that the scoreboard definition leads to is a comparison with others. Did you score more goals than the other team? Did that person run faster than me? Whereas the mastery definition is more about learning. Did I improve over last time? You know, it's a comparison with yourself, and it fosters a better environment of learning. And lastly, the scoreboard definition, you know, we fear mistakes. Mistakes are not good. We are coaching, so we don't make mistakes. Our players don't make mistakes. And in the mastery definition, mistakes are okay. We have to bounce back from them. And in fact, we use mistakes to learn. They're learning tools, right? So let me, for you guys, what do you think? Put yourself in your 10-year-old shoes when you were playing sports and you went to a first practice of lacrosse or soccer or basketball, whatever it was. What did you fear the most? What do you think a kid fears the most when they're out there on the soccer pitch or the lacrosse field or the hockey rink?
Screwing up in front of your friends.
Exactly. Screwing up in front of your friends, right? Making mistakes. That is one of the biggest fears that kids have. And in an old school definition, why do you think, Chris, that you were afraid of making mistakes?
You don't want to look bad in front of anyone. You're afraid of the, you know, how your parents, your coaches, and or your peers, how they're going to respond, and so you lose that aggressiveness.
Yeah,
to shy away.
Exactly. Chris, I think he hit it right on the head. Every little kid or young athlete or college athlete that's out there fears the most making mistakes, right? And in our mastery definition, we say mistakes are okay. We can foster an environment where they don't have to fear that. We'll go on to the next slide. Mm-hmm. So research shows, right? Oops, sorry, I messed up here.
Okay.
You know what? I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Roser?
Roser. Okay. I didn't know if it was Rosser or Roser. It's funny. I've read a lot about him, but in educational stuff.
Also, I was going to say, I had 2 professors in college that pronounced it 2 different ways. So
okay.
I think unless we talk to Robert himself, you're good to go.
Okay. What we know from a lot of our research at the PCA and a lot of other outside studies is that the mastery environment where the kids don't have to fear the things like Chris was talking about, we see anxiety go down. I'll click it.
Yep.
And self-confidence go up. And like I said, this is supported by a lot of research in schools, that kids under mastery environments in school do better in math, do better in language, that athletes, the same kind of thing, that they will improve. Top athletes, do you think Michael Phelps has a lot of anxiety when he goes to race? Anybody? Do you think he has a lot of anxiety?
I think he does.
Now, do you think he has a lot of self-confidence?
Yeah.
I think he knows how to channel that nervousness to help him.
Right.
Where most.
Right.
More, yeah.
And I think that's another key point that research has shown that you guys have hit on. Now, we want anxiety to be lower for our kids, right? We want it to be lower. So we want this mastery environment. We don't want to criticize them for mistakes. We want to help them learn from mistakes. And we want their confidence to go up. And Michael Phelps is a great example. His confidence is high. Now, I'm sure he has some anxiety. I mean, you're racing for the all-time number of gold medals ever, right? But his anxiety is in a zone where it's, in a way, it's helpful. It can help him decide that he does want to put in the effort, but it doesn't go over into the paralyzing fear, right? And that's what we're trying to develop too. And especially with our young kids, we don't want them to have anxiety over practice. We want it to be fun, right? Maybe our college players, we try to put a little more anxiety, or our professional players in there. But so I'm glad you actually brought that up, Kelly, that you said he probably does a little anxious, because again, the reality is there's going to be a little bit of anxiety no matter how confident you are. But if we develop this mastery climate with the tools we're showing, then it should be and still enjoyable. Okay. So our elm tree of mastery, the effort, the learning, and the bouncing back from mistakes, what all of this does is the way it lowers our anxiety, or puts the anxiety in a functional place, is to give the athletes a feeling of control, right? So, for example, Ruben, if I said to you, I want you to tell me what you feel about these 2 different things, we'll be Coach A and Coach B again. So Coach A says, Ruben, I want you to make all of your foul shots next game. Or Coach B says, Ruben, I want you to drive to the basket and get as many chances on the line as you can have, right? Which one of those is going to induce more anxiety, do you think?
Coach A.
Yeah. And why do you think it induces more anxiety?
Well, the focus on the result, you know, and the fact that, the focus on the result, as opposed to Coach B, who was putting my focus on things that I had a higher degree of control over.
Exactly. I mean, you can't control everything. And if we have focus on effort is something a player can control. They can put their hustle in. They can put their time in. That's something they control. Can they ultimately run faster than the guy in the lane next to them or the girl in the lane? Maybe not. That other person may be better. Soccer is full of, slipping in the rain and the referee not being able to see from far down the field and an odd bounce that gives the other team a goal. Those are things you can't control, right? But you can control how you react to it and how the effort you put in towards it. And your kids will feel better if they can feel like they're in control. I had a funny example of my Falcons, my 5-year-old preschool team that I was coaching this spring. And I had 2 players on the team who were excellent. You know, they were far above everybody else. And we got into a game and we were playing, and this one little player, I was trying to get him up. I'm like, Henry, come on. And I was trying to be all, you know, do the effort. I was trying to fill his emotional tank. I was doing all these things. Come on, Henry, get up there. You could do it. You worked hard in practice. You know how to do this. And then he looked over and he said, they don't need me. They don't need me. I'm like, it like broke my heart. I'm like, what do you mean they don't need you? And the truth was the 2 good players were just winning the ball all the time and scoring all these goals. And if we were on a scoreboard definition, we didn't need him. We didn't need him. And he's like, and he felt like he had no control over the situation. These great players were winning. And in fact, I was stumped. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do because, you know, in our emotional tank, we talked about specific and real praise. Like the truth was, if I say, hey, come on, Henry, we need you. We didn't need him based on goals. But we needed him based on other ways. And then I thought about it. And what I did is I told them, we got a break. And I said, look, 2 people can be the Chargers. They go to the ball. And 2 people are the guards. And the Chargers, if the ball goes over the half line, the Chargers can't touch the ball. We need the guards to touch the ball. Because for us to win, everybody has to touch the ball. We can't score a goal until 2 people touch the ball. And it was funny, you know, I didn't think that would even make a difference. But Henry, when he felt he was the guard and felt he was useful because that's how we were playing, he was fine. And the ball would roll to him and he would kick it up. And then the good players would go get the ball and score. But it made me think a lot about this feeling of mastery and this feeling of control, you know. So let's move forward. So we have a scenario here. We have players like Henry. You have a team like Henry, but it's your lacrosse team or your hockey team, whatever we're talking to. And your team plays to play tentatively. And they let the opponents control the game. They let the opponents dictates what's happening on the field. What can you do? What are some things you could tell your players, or maybe practice with your players, or from you yourself that you could do to get your team to play more aggressively? Anyone? I see a hand out there from...
Well, I guess I would say, going back to what you said about, or what we said about getting their focus off of goals and score and results, and you know, giving them an assignment or trying to steer their focus onto you know, their effort or a particular tactic or strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be excellent. So we switch them to what we call effort goals as opposed to outcome goals, and I'll talk about that a little bit right now. When we want our players to do something, again, we're always battling the scoreboard definition, because ultimately the scoreboard's up there, right? And ultimately the winning team is the winning team. And I think no matter what we do, that's always going to be there. And it's okay to be there because we're competitive and we do want to win. But sometimes it can overwhelm things. And if the players are sitting there and they're thinking, this team is better, we don't want to make mistakes, let's just sit back and maybe we can win. You know, we don't want to play aggressive, but they won't improve and they won't get better. So one key thing that I have found with my college team that's been really successful is what we call effort goals to try. So we set, you know, just like I was talking about with Henry saying the guards and the forwards, but with more seasoned players, maybe the goal, the thing is that we challenge every ball that goes in the air outside the 18 box. We need to have a body on it. I'm not saying you have to win it, but someone's got to be there, right? When the ball crosses the half line, we call it 8 behind the line. We have to have at least 8 players behind the line at all times, right? So it's things they can focus on, and hopefully that will lead to better performance. Now, if you're playing a great Division I team that has players that are going to play professionally, it's going to be hard. So you move your goalposts, I guess. In your book, you'll find, and I forgot the page, I should have known that, an interesting case of a coach who had his soccer team that just was not doing well. And he switched their focus to just trying to cross the half line 5 times during the game. And the girls were going nuts because they crossed the half line. And, you know, by the end of the year, they improved because that was a first step. And I have another story. I had a player, an All-American. He was a beast. He was 6'2". He was a monster. He got a full scholarship to play at a Division II school. And the way he got the scholarship is the leading scorer in the country. We were playing against them in the regional final, and the leading scorer had 27 goals on the year. And all of these big colleges came to see that leading scorer, and my player completely shut him down, and he didn't score against us. So then he got all of these things. But he went to school in his first week. I thought this guy was good. He was a good student. He was a great athlete. He was a monster. I'm like, he's fine. And he called me. He's like, Coach, I'm not doing well. This coach, he just screams and yells at us. And I'm not doing well. He was essentially like reverting back to a 10-year-old player who's afraid of mistakes. And he told me, he said, I'm afraid to play. And I said, John, look, this is what you got to do. The next game, well, the reason he called me, he was actually going to get a chance to start because a player got injured. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, John, look, you're 6'2", you're great in the air, you win every ball. They were playing him as a center back. I said, any goal kick that's taken that's within 10 yards of you, just monster. Just go win every head ball. And just go from there. Don't worry about anything else. If you pass the ball, if you miss a tackle, just crush every head ball. And he said, okay. And literally the next day, he played the game. He called me up. He's like, Coach, I won every ball. I'm starting the next game. And I mean, it was unbelievable. It's like, it shouldn't work that way, you know? And you know what? He became the Atlantic 10 Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year that year. And it was unbelievable, that one little effort goal tweak. So I know that these things can work at all levels. So let's go back and let's summarize up what we've covered here. Okay. The Elm Tree of Mastery, we're trying to create a mastery environment so our students the anxiety goes down, they don't fear mistakes, and they learn to get better. Okay. Effort, learning, and mistakes, bouncing back from mistakes. Some key takeaways here. So one key thing is that we always focus on the effort, or we put emphasis on the effort. I shouldn't say we always focus on that, right? And what did we call that when we focus on the effort and we do that? Does anybody remember?
Become a noticer?
A noticer, right? We're all going to be noticers. Noticers of effort. That's what we want to say. I want you all to stand up. No, you don't have to stand up. Just say, I am a noticer of effort.
No, that's good.
You know, come on, people. We are noticers of effort. Right? It will, and not noticers of mistakes necessarily. Remember my story. I know what that's like. And it's so easy to notice mistakes. Mm-hmm. It's a little harder to notice effort, but it will pay off. I am telling you, it will pay off. And also, unsuccessful effort. Reward unsuccessful effort. That person who missed the foul shot, but they drove to the basket aggressively like you wanted them to do. They didn't lose, right? Because what's going to happen the next game that they do that, they're going to drive and they'll get that opportunity again, and it will come. You know, Michael Jordan missed a lot of foul shots. He missed a lot of last chances, but we don't remember those because he kept trying, right? He kept trying. And lastly, another interesting tool called the mistake ritual, which lets us gives us a physical mechanism to brush off our mistakes. And we actually have a little video here from Curtis Grandison from Major League Baseball of a mistake ritual that he did with his college coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can play that.
Play the video.
Yep.
And so, you know, a mistake ratio, my team, we do a brush and flush when we make mistakes. Another thing I've seen teams do is if players are having problems or made a mistake, they write it on a piece of paper, and on their way out to the practice field, they throw it in the trash can on their way out, right? We actually, I did that with my team the year we won we beat the #1 team in the country in the first round of the national tournament. We had made some mistakes the day before. We wrote them on a piece of paper and we went out and we won. And we were the first team the first last place team to ever beat the first place team in the NJCAA national championship. And we went on to the finals that year. So again, let's summarize. Notice effort, right? Foster a mastery environment, and let's brush off our mistakes. Let's deal with mistakes, okay? And we're going to move on to our next phase of our 3-phase model, integrity, honoring the game.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks. Okay. Good. How was the time? I didn't even know.
Yeah, it was about a half hour. It was a little long.
Okay, a little long. I can cut stories out. That's easy.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of a whole workshop, I spend more time on mastery than the other principles also, just because I really enjoy it. So
right.
I think, you'll be able to tweak it to fit in a full workshop. But
right.
Yeah, that was about a half hour.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So Chris, this is the first time you saw Scott in person, not on email.
No.
Yeah.
What did you like, and what's the suggestion of something he could work on before he goes out live?
Sure. No, Scott, very, very good job. The one thing I wouldn't cut out, though, I wouldn't cut out the stories.
Okay.
I would keep those stories. And I think after a workshop, we get reviews back from the partners. They'll give you reviews, but they also send us things. And one of the most common things we hear about is, either not enough stories or we love the stories.
Mm-hmm.
People remember stories. They don't remember definitions.
Right.
And so I really, keep crafting those stories because those are what resonate with people. People remember, the story about the Falcons or the kid that, was 18 but acting like a 10-year-old. Right. We remember those things. Like a definition of mastery, we might forget. So stories, absolutely. Just keep going with those. I like that idea. One of the best examples for the noticer of effort that I've heard that I like to use is like a tennis match. Where often as coaches, we look like we're at a tennis match and we just follow the ball back and forth and we never look away from it. I think that kind of resonates with coaches. They're like, oh yeah, I do only look at the guy with the ball or the guy who's on the mound. And then the big one in terms of when I first started, I kind of went into several of my workshops early on with that mindset. They're coming in to hear PCA. They want to hear what I have to say and, what the slides and the videos say. And then the feedback was, hey, we want a chance to talk.
Yeah.
And because my mindset early on was, hey, we're from New England. We don't like to talk. We don't like to open up. Which was false, which was absolutely false. They do want to talk and be engaged. And, the more dialogue that you could have rather than a monologue, that's when they get really into it. So yeah, dialogue over a monologue and the back and forth is what people really, really enjoy. So yeah, that's just some of my quick notes. I thought that story about the Falcons was really, really good. And you said something to the lines like, I wasn't sure what to do. And we don't have all the answers, certainly. I thought that was a perfect opportunity to say, hey, help me out. What would you have done in that situation?
You know what?
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because that is something I have written in my notebook. And then I'm like, oh, it's going to make it too long. but I agree. I think that would be a good,
Yeah. So great energy, great energy, and the volume of the voice, awesome. And yeah, we're excited to, we've got about 45 workshops on the calendar and a lot more coming up. So we're looking forward to having you, join us.
Great.
Join us. I'm sorry. I do have a call at 11:45 that I have to do a little prep work for. But I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and taking that next step.
Great.
Chris, thanks for joining us. Chris, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was awesome.
That was good. That was nice to meet him.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris is great. The fun thing about Chris is he's not only the partner manager, but he does a lot of workshops too. So he knows what it's like to be a trainer and go out and do the workshops. And then he also gets the feedback sent to him from the partners. So it's really valuable to hear his opinion because he knows what the partners are looking for and he's done it. So he's great. Cool. Ruben, would you like to go next? I like your lounge chair, your nice easy chair outside. That's very nice.
So Kelly, you know that I like sitting on my back patio in the morning and working at my computer, and then it allows my dog always wants to be outside, and so my dog leaves me alone if I'm out here on the back patio. It lets me work. So I had set up a little patio table out here and chair, but something about the angle of that patio chair, it was causing me to tweak my back. And so for the time being, when I'm on my patio, I'm going to sit in this little easy chair.
There you go.
It's a thrift store purchase, so I really like this chair. But let's get back to more important things. So Scott, I was not able to see your first demo live. And I'm just curious as to, from demo number 1 to demo number 2, if there was anything in particular you were trying to emphasize or do differently, or.
Well, the one thing was from demo number 1. I mean, part of it was the introduction, and I was a little confused, not confused, but I don't know like what. One of the feedback things was that people said, give us more of who you are. Mm-hmm. And so this time what I was trying to do was incorporate some of those stories of what I've done, so they would see what I've coached in that. And also another thing was that, Kelly, you had mentioned this. Actually, I don't think it was but it was one of the other ones that I tuned in with for, I think his name was Neil, the guy in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, like give those moments where you weren't the expert or you didn't know what to do, that you were vulnerable. And that's why I thought that 5-year-old Falcon story was good, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix it, and it took till halftime till I could figure something out. So I wanted to try to incorporate some of those suggestions that you had told me before into this. So I thought, maybe if I, like Chris said, had a little bit more stories that show, one, that I don't know all the answers, but then tried to figure it out. And two, just give a little idea of maybe the breadth of things. I'm coaching a 5-year-old and I coach an All-American college player, that there's, that these things apply across the board.
Well, Scott, excellent. So I'm going to come back to a couple things you said, but I want to point out right now. So Chris gave you some feedback, and then Kelly turned the floor over to me. Mm-hmm. And so far, during the time that I've had the floor, who's talked more, me or you?
Me.
Kelly, would you agree? Kelly, would you agree?
Unless your chair.
Kelly, would you agree with that?
I would, except you asked him a direct question, so I would think. No.
More. So my point is not that you're talking too much, Scott. My point is that it's an example of, as a trainer, certain parts of the workshop, you're actually the one who talks less.
Mm. Right.
So because no. I did not mean this as a critique of Scott in the last 2 or 3 minutes. No, okay. I just wanted to point out that it just occurred to me that that's what we want trainers to do in their workshops at different phases, is throw out a question, put out a discussion, and let folks talk to each other, or so anyway, but Scott, I want to congratulate you, because those things that you said you were, the feedback that you got and the things you were trying to do, I saw all of them. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did get to know you as a person through your anecdotes. You gave me a window into you as a person and as a coach. You were vulnerable. I didn't know what to do. So you accomplished that. Kelly had told me how well prepared you were and how thorough and detail oriented. And I know exactly what she's talking about. And again, I mean that as a compliment. I thought this demo was very strong. And I'm just going to emphasize, Kelly, a couple of points that Chris made that I think are important points, and then I'm going to jump off and let you finish up with Scott. Okay. So all the positives that Chris noted, your animation, your energy, you smile when you're delivering, you chuckle when you're delivering to us. You look like a trainer that's having fun at the workshop. And that's so important for the participants to feel like, wow, this trainer's, enjoying it. Yeah. Your content, your flow, I think you're very smooth. You create good transitions. That there's the one place in the workshop where we have the scenario, and it's a chance to turn things over to the group. And on a demo with only 3 people, you might not have a pair share and follow out with a group share. In a live workshop, I would do that once or twice. Right. Let's talk in pairs and then come together as a group. I also think that maybe one time before you get to that scenario, if you look for a place to create a similar dynamic where you turn things over to the group, or you put us into an activity or something. Just an idea for you to.
Yeah. Well, I think Chris's idea that he mentioned, that Falcon story, that could be a breakout.
There you go. Like, there you go. You got it.
I didn't know what to do. What would you do? And why don't turn to a partner and do that. So I made a note of that.
And so in order to do that, in order to keep all the great personal stories that you brought into it, I do think you're going to have to cut down on some of the PCA content, actually. I think you're going to have to cut down on some of that, and that's good. That's fine. And then one at the very end, you referred to PCA's 3-phase model. Kelly, can you put up that transition slide again? The last transition slide, Kelly. You were looking for a spot. This slide. So Scott, filling emotional tanks, the Elm Tree of Mastery, and honoring the game. What are those in PCA's world? And
the 3 parts of the coaching model.
I'm looking for. Kelly knows which word I'm looking for.
Yes, I know.
Kelly, what word am I looking for?
The principles.
Yes,
they're the principles.
Yeah. And I said
principles.
Right.
And it's a little thing.
No, but
in terms of consistency and getting people to walk away with a more solid understanding. We don't want to refer to them as phases. We don't want to refer to them as parts. Yeah. They're the 3 principles. Yeah, yeah. So you got that.
That's a good easy point, though. That's a good.
It's a little thing, but so all right. I've already taken more time than I should have. So hey, Scott, I'm excited, just like Chris is and Kelly is. She built you up pretty big, and
sorry to let you down.
No, you lived up to it in every way. So thank you, Scott, and congratulations, Kelly, on your work with Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, thank you for the feedback.
Okay, I'm gonna hop off, guys.
Are you joining me at noon, Ruben? Just asking.
I'm not because I'm in a budget meeting, Kelly. That's gonna last 2 hours. So I'd rather join you.
Have fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather. All right.
Good
bye.
luck with that. Yep. Bye bye.
Yeah.
So Scott, I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said, but I just think, I feel confident that you're ready to go out and do a workshop already. Like I really do feel like you've got all the tools, and it is easier to do in front of live people than it is to do this way. You know that because you can feed off of people and you'll be able to feel and read the room and say, wait, I need to get them up. I need to get them moving. I need to get them talking, so that's something I'm not worried about that at all. I think that you have so many positives when I think Chris is right. People remember stories. They don't remember statistics. And I think you do have your storytelling, like you come alive. I mean, I can picture Henry on the side of the field. I can picture this 6'2" guy, and if some people tell a story and they don't give enough details, some people tell stories and give too many details. I think you did a nice job at balancing it out. I know who you're talking about. Just saying this guy was a beast, it's like, it's a little detail, but I can picture this guy. Right. And I can picture the stress. And I think it is really important to show the coaches that you coach 5-year-olds and, all Americans. And I think that helps your credibility as well. And also, as you said, to show that these principles work for everybody. And you had great stories for both of them. And it was the same principles. So I think that was really cool too. Okay. What I would love you to do for your stories, and you can watch this back too, is tell a story as if it were intentionally put right in exactly where you put it. So I feel like you were going through the principle and you're like, wait, I have a story to tell. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Okay.
like just be intentional about it and say, let me tell you a story to illustrate this perfectly. You know, rather than just, because it almost seemed like it was a quick whim because you had so many stories. And I know they're not. I know you planned out the stories, but just work on maybe that smoothness, because then, you know, the coaches will lean in a little bit. Because it's funny, there's so many slides here. And I think I've told you before, I always think there's way too many slides. And I delete a lot of slides. Like when I'm going through this, and I'll show you, like I just pop this up all at once. This slide right here. After the Carol Dweck video, if somebody from the audience or from one of the coaches says, well, what I noticed is she said, notice effort, boom, it's up on the screen. I don't care what order it's in. If somebody says attribute success, boom, it's up. So I don't go over this slide again. As they're saying it, as the coaches are giving these answers,
get it up.
I'm clicking, it's popping up. And you know what? And I don't go, yes, we want you to tell them. I don't repeat slides. If I just have it magically appear behind me. And the coaches are like, wow, how did she know what we were going to say? You know, so I'm pretty quick. The Carol Dweck video has a lot of information. And then I go right into this. And then I go right into the principle, because you actually, and I'm just being picky here. You spent like 11 minutes before you even got to this slide that starts the principle. So I just don't think you need that much preview, because the meat of the principle is, what is it? What's the scenario, and how can you use it? So I would get to the principle a little bit faster and let Carol Dweck do all the talking. You know, she's amazing. And you don't have to, you know, take time to really sell it at that point if she already has. So that's just a tip. I love how you put the story about negative charting. I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, how can I put this in my workshop? I'm doing a mastery workshop tomorrow. I'm like, that's so great, because even like there's so many coaches that do that. You know, missed ground balls, missed shots, missed opportunities, you know, why are we keeping track of all these negatives? You know, it's just, gosh, that was such an aha moment. So many coaches are going to go, oh my gosh, I do the same thing, because that's what I thought you should do. And then when you also said, my gosh, it's so powerful, it worked. I mean, that's so cool, because it's not like you're just telling me on behalf of PCA. You're like, I can't believe I was doing this, and here I go, and it worked. You know, so that was really cool. I was negative charting, I think you said. I love that term. One of the things to add in, this is sometimes just ideas I think of. When you do this slide, I do this pretty quickly as well. This Elm Tree of Mastery scoreboard definition versus mastery. The one thing that a lot of coaches don't always clearly communicate to their players is, what does effort look like? So that's a question that I ask a lot of coaches. I was asked it at a workshop once, and I was like, you know, that's really a good question, because we're constantly saying, we want effort. We want you guys to give max effort. But does a player really know that hustling to a loose ball that's ready to go out of bounds is effort? And I'm paying attention to that. You know, the players think, well, if I kick the ball out of bounds and the other team gets the ball, the coach is going to put a check on his negative chart. But if I know that at max effort means I want you hustling your butt off, even if there's no chance you're going to get to that loose ball, I want to see you sprinting. I want to see you beat that person to the sidelines. You know, I tell my players that all the time. I don't care if you get the ball, because you might not. But I want you to sprint your butt off to that. Pretend that sideline is a finish line of a race, and I want you to try to get there. And so, you know, just so that they know, maximum effort means boxing out when the shot goes up. I want you in position to box out. I don't care if you're boxing out a player that's 3 feet taller than you are. I want you boxing out, you know, things like that. So ask the coaches to actually enunciate and communicate, what does maximum effort look like on the second leg of a cross-country race? I have no idea.
Right.
But maybe the coach could say, you know what it means? It means keeping your steady pace up the hills. It means pumping your arms. It means controlling your breathing. That's what effort looks like.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point, because I struggle myself trying to figure out what the effort goal should be to get the desired effect. I mean, like boxing out is a pretty easy one, but some other things are hard to figure out what you need to set the goal to achieve what you're trying to get.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So just something that a lot of, I find them like aha moments for coaches. Like, gosh, I never did that. I never told them what it looks like. Yeah. So I thought that was good. The word resilience is huge, because that's one of the life lessons. So if in the beginning of the workshop, you had them talk about what life lessons you want to teach here, mastery is about resilience. So I like how you put that word in there too. The only thing and I'm surprised Ruben didn't say it, because he usually does, just a caution about saying that scoreboard definition is old school and mastery definition is new. Because there's a ton of coaches out there right now in their 20s, and they're win at all costs scoreboard focused. So And there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of old school coaches that were really great. So I think, you know, the idea of old school came in the very beginning when we had that Sports Illustrated slide that says, you know, the days of the abusive coach are over. There you can mention old school. But when it comes to this, it really doesn't have to do with what used to be done and what's happening now. It's really, how do you define success? And how do you define winning? We all want our players to win. Are you basing winning on the scoreboard? Or are you saying your team's successful in winning based on their effort, learning, and mistakes are okay? And as you said, if you've got 2 people that are going down the field scoring every goal, well, that you don't need everybody on the field. Your team won, you know, but 90% of your players haven't touched the ball. So just be careful about that. I have to actually get on a call in 1 minute. But love Coach A, Coach B. I think it's great. And I also think it's great to keep coming back to Coach A and Coach B. I think I like that. I thought that was really good. And let me see what else. Oh, group activities. I agree. I think it would even be funny, like when you say everybody stand up and say, I am a noticer. Yeah. You know, I think, you know, even just to put a little humor into it, you could even say, okay, everybody stand up, put your hand on your heart. Here's the pledge. You know, I am a noticer of effort. I am not a noticer of mistakes. You know, something like that. I think that would be kind of funny to it just made me think of that. I'm like, be a little goofy, be a little funny. They'll remember it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, good,
so
good.
If you want to run through one more principle, I mean, I give you the opportunity to do 3. If you want to pick a different principle and run through that, you're welcome to do that. And then maybe, you know, we'll have Ruben and I'd like to get Joe Tarasi on the line too, because he's the lead trainer. So I'd love for him to get a chance to see you too.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready to do that, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry it's taken so long. It's now preseason comes in and everything.
Oh, it's okay. I get it. It's a tough, especially for any fall coaches. I'm like amazed that you're even doing this at all. So
my effort goal was to be done a long time ago, but then
I'm sure.
Vacations and
well, that's okay.
And everything. So
we understand. No worries, Scott.
Okay.
But I'll send you this recording so you can watch this back as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Take care.
We'll talk later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.